A very special welcome to everyone to this global event of celebration today. Our congregation is meeting to honour and make the award of an honorary degree to Datuk Seri Michael Yam Kong Choy. Now, graduation is always one of our most important ceremonies in the university's calendar, but today is especially significant as it marks the first occasion in which we have formed a virtual congregation for this purpose. I'd like to welcome you today to Heriot-Watt University's special congregation then, on which we're conferring the honorary degree of Doctor of the University on Datuk Yam. I'm delighted to note that I'm joined today by other senior colleagues from both our Malaysia campus and the Edinburgh campus, and by family and friends and esteemed colleagues and friends of Datuk Yam. We're also honoured to be joined by Mr. Grant Innes, the chair of our governing body, the court, and also by Datuk Yasmin Mahmud, chair of the board of Heriot-Watt University, Malaysia. You're all most welcome. Heriot-Watt University is a very distinctive multinational university, a place that places great importance on excellence in teaching and research in order to create graduates who have a strong sense of purpose so they can shape the world. And I know that today we have in our honorary graduate, Datuk Yam, someone who is truly a world shaper. Now I'd like to introduce the following colleagues who are participating with me in the ceremony today. In Edinburgh, we have Professor Lynn Jack, who is Associate Principal for International Research within the School of Energy, Geoscience, Infrastructure and Society. And Professor Jack will be giving the lauration for Datuk Yam. And in Malaysia, we have Professor Mushtaq Al-Atabi, who is the CEO and Provost of Heriot-Watt University, Malaysia. And I would now like to invite him to say a few words of welcome on behalf of the Malaysia campus.
Dear family members, friends, guests and colleagues, on behalf of Heriot-Watt University, Malaysia, it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you to the virtual conferment of the Honorary Doctorate of the University on Datuk Seri Michael Yam. While it is really exciting that Heriot-Watt University Malaysia campus once again lives up to its reputation as a powerhouse of innovation by organizing the very first virtual honorary graduate ceremony, we are really looking forward to hosting all of you at a physical ceremony once the restrictions are lifted. Datuk Seri Michael, you've visited our campus in Putrajaya once, and indeed we are looking forward to welcoming you again to that campus and our campuses around the world. It's really thrilling that we are working together on initiatives for widening access and also future-proofing our graduates, because together we can have a great impact. I'm delighted now to introduce my colleague, Professor Lynn Jack, Associate Principal, International Research, who will be giving the laureation for Datuk Seri Michael Yam.
Thank you, Provost. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honour to present for the honorary degree of Doctor of the University, Datuk Seri Michael Yam Kong Choy. Datuk Seri Michael Yam Kong Choy, family and friends. Our honorary graduates are all individuals who have made outstanding contributions in areas of particular relevance to the university's values and mission. With a successful career in construction, project management and real estate development spanning more than 35 years, Michael's knowledge, expertise, values and exemplary impact across the sector and beyond provide an inspirational example of the futures we seek to open up for our students in this rapidly changing and increasingly interconnected world. Michael was born into a family of builders and grew up in Kelang, Peninsular Malaysia. Throughout his formative years, he was encouraged by his family to always seek new knowledge and so he was one of 100 students in 1969 that secured a scholarship to enrol and board at the premier Royal Military College, Malaysia. Datuk Seri Yam flourished and has fond memories of and a strong allegiance to his alma mater, and to this day still frequently wears a striped green tie on Wednesdays, bearing the coat of arms of this prestigious school. After completing his secondary schooling, Michael's wish to pursue a career in construction and the built environment, with the aim to take over his family's construction business, led him to leave for the UK in 1973, completing his HND in building at the then Southampton College of Technology, now known as Solent University, following which he pursued a postgraduate diploma in management studies and also a postgraduate diploma in building management at the Polytechnic of Central London, now known as the University of Westminster. Upon graduation, Michael worked full-time as a building officer with the Brent and Harrow Area Health Authority. It's also while pursuing his building qualifications that he discovered the home for building and construction professionals, the Chartered Institute of Building. Michael joined the CIOB initially as a student member and then a licentiate, and after chalking up the necessary work experience, qualified as a corporate member of CIOB in 1983. It was in mid-1983 that Michael decided to return to Malaysia, but instead of joining his father's construction firm, Michael accepted a job as a project engineer, joining the company known as Property Development and Construction Services in Kuala Lumpur. As his professional career began to flourish, so too did his family, and we're especially pleased to be joined today by his wife Cindy and his 4 children, Grace, Precious, James and Jessie. Welcome. In 1989, his Royal Military College peers invited him to be the Group Property Manager of Landmarks plc. At this time, he was also Chief Executive of Sungai Wang Plaza, then the biggest shopping mall in Malaysia, while simultaneously taking charge of the Park Royal Hotels Kuala Lumpur and Penang, and at the same time preparing the Carcosa Seri Negara Hotel, the official state guest house, for the arrival of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip. After 3 years at Landmarks, Michael joined the holding company of Landmarks, Paremba Malaysia, as MD of the property division, overseeing the real estate development around the Saujana Resort and projects in the Wangsa Maju township. In February 1996, he took the CEO's position at Country Heights. In this role, he oversaw the development of mixed housing projects in Selangor, Kedah and Sarawak, as well as the charge overseas constructing a Jack Nicklaus golf and residential estate in Johannesburg, South Africa, and 4,000 units of affordable housing in Mauritius. In 1997, Michael was offered the position of MD and CEO of a newly listed company known as Sunrise Berhad, the pioneer of the upmarket development in Mont Kiara, which is the name coined by Sunrise for this expatriate enclave. During his 11-year stewardship in Sunrise Berhad, he led the transformation of an erstwhile family-run outfit into a well-known and reputable professionally managed award-winning public listed company. Although its positive growth trajectory was disrupted by the Asian financial crisis that hit Malaysia in late 1997-98, under Michael's bold and resilient leadership, it remained profitable despite the economic ravages wrought in the region. For his impressive performance in navigating the company through such challenging times, he was recognised as Malaysia's CEO of the Year 2001-2002. He also successfully expanded Sunrise's business to South Africa, Australia and the UK, completing a shopping mall in Johannesburg, setting up the American School in Sydney, and securing the development rights adjacent to Excel in the Docklands of East London, and also brownfield regeneration project on the Ipswich waterfront, together with his South African, Australian and British partners, who he's still in touch with today. Although already retired, in mid-2008, Michael ascended to the presidency of the Real Estate and Housing Developers Association, and immediately embarked on raising its standing in the community that it plays such a key role in economically. He worked towards deepening the association's relationship and collaboration with his counterparts in Singapore, Sabah and Sarawak, and initiated an ASEAN Association of Developers to share information and experiences amongst member associations of the various countries in the region. Nominations and appointments onto boards of well-known listed companies followed in quick succession. He first joined Standard Chartered Bank Malaysia as an independent director in early 2009. He also chairs the board risk committee of this bank, the oldest in Malaysia. Soon after, he joined the public listed property and education group Paramount Corporation Berhad, Malaysia Airports Holding Berhad, CMS Berhad, and Sunway Berhad, contributing his expertise in governance, risk management, and technical and project management as an independent non-executive director. As his successes grew, so did his leadership of a number of influential bodies, where in the spirit of giving back to society, he was called upon for national service, serving as a member of the advisory board of the City of Kuala Lumpur, a member of the National Key Economic Area Steering Committee for the transformation of Greater Kuala Lumpur, a director of the Construction Statutory Board, the Construction Industry Development Board, and from 2012 the appointed chairman of Invest KL Corporation, an investment promotion agency under the Ministry of International Trade and Industry, charged with the responsibility of attracting multinational corporations to establish their regional headquarters or centres of excellence for business innovation or talent in Greater Kuala Lumpur. Currently, he's also the chairman of Erman, the largest airport duty-free retailer in the 5 international airports in Malaysia, chairman of KL Airport Hotels, and also various private property development companies. From 2008 to 2016, Michael was also director of the British Malaysian Chamber of Commerce, whose primary objective is to promote bilateral trade and enhance relationships between the British and Malaysian business communities. Michael was elected president of the Chartered Institute of Building Malaysia from 2005 to 2007, and subsequently elected onto the Board of Trustees from 2008. In June 2020, Michael was elected Vice President of the CIOB, which will lead him to become the Senior Vice President in June 2021 and President of this 188-year-old institution in June 2022. He makes history as the first Malaysian and second Asian ever to be President. In a personal capacity, Michael has received many accolades that served as testimony of his visionary leadership and professionalism. These include an honorary fellowship of the Construction Development Board, as well as an honorary membership of the Malaysian Institute of Estate Agents. In recognition of his services to the nation, he was conferred the Darjah Datuk Seri Negeri Sembilan in 2002 and the Seri Mahkota Wilayah in 2011 by His Majesty the King of Malaysia. And yet, despite such professional success and what can be described as a very busy work life, he finds time for charity work and travel, as well as regularly playing golf and tennis. It's clear that Michael is an individual of huge talent and tenacity, and that through his business acumen, his unique skill set, and his display of leadership, he has been influential in not only building a successful professional career, but in contributing to the advancement of a construction and real estate industry through his charitable work and involvement in NGOs. Michael is an excellent role model for all of our students at Heriot-Watt, not just those studying in construction-related fields. He's a firm believer in empowerment through education, and his successes resonate across both the university and the wider profession. Michael clearly embodies the talent, foresight, impact, and international mindset we seek to impart upon students of the university. He is indeed a worthy recipient of this award and a welcome colleague within this community of honorary graduates. Vice-Chancellor, in the name of the university and by the authority of the Senate, in recognition of his contribution to the social, economic and cultural development of Malaysia, through his work as a developer and through his input to improve the statutory and construction regulations in Malaysia, I call upon you to confer the honorary degree of Doctor of the University on Datuk Seri Michael Yam Kong Choy.
Thank you, Professor Jack. Under the authority given to me by Senate, I have pleasure in conferring the degree of the Doctor of the University on Datuk Seri Michael Yam Kong Choy.
Principal and Vice Chancellor of Heriot-Watt University, Professor Richard Williams. Chair of the governing body, the Court of Heriot-Watt University, Mr. Grant Innes. Yang berbahagia Datuk Yasmin Mahmud, Chairman of the Board, Heriot-Watt University, Malaysia. Provost and CEO of Heriot-Watt University, Malaysia Campus, Professor Mushtaq Al-Attabi. Associate Principal of International Research of Heriot-Watt University, Professor Lin Jack, who, by the way, had the distinction of being elected the First Lady President of the Chartered Institute of Building Services Engineer in 2019. A mean feat indeed in a world dominated by male. President of CIOB, Mr. Mark Beard, who is tuning in from London. Senior Vice President of CIOB, Mike Foyle. CEO of Chartered Institute of Building, Caroline Gamble. Chairman of the Construction Industry Development Board, the Honorable Member of Parliament for Tanjung Manis, Tuan Haji Engineer Yusuf bin Haji Abdul Wahab. President of the Real Estate and Housing Developers Association, Datuk Engineer Som Heng Chun, and fellow council members. President of the Chartered Institute of Building Malaysia, Mr. Ho Chi Leong, and council members. My parents, wife, family members, business partners, and friends. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning to Bonnie, Scotland and England, and good afternoon to all those in Malaysia, Asia, and even Australia. Firstly, I would like to say that today is a very special day for me, and I deeply appreciate your attendance to lend support and witness today's virtual conferment, possibly the first in the world. Secondly, thank you, Professor Williams and Professor Mushtaq, for the opening remarks and welcome speech, which gave me much encouragement. I am especially grateful to Professor Lin Jack for not only reading the oration, but preparing it with the contents very much based on her own intelligence gathering and research, which is very much her forte and specialization. In fact, I told her that if I didn't know that she's an academic, I could have believed she is M of MI5 of the James Bond fame. Thirdly, I have to say that while the dreaded COVID-19 virus has caused untold economic destruction and unprecedented disruption to the world order, there still exists some silver lining in the cloud. These bright spots include a cleaner and greener environment due to restricted movement and reduced travels, reality of knowing what our needs and wants in this materialistic world, and to discover how adaptable and resilient human beings can be in the face of challenges. Another new normal, and a positive one, which is happening right now, is the virtual conferment of my doctorate, where many could watch this very memorable moment of my life simultaneously across the globe. So thanks to Paul Treville, Michelle Stenhouse, and Lee Duncan and his team in Edinburgh, and Jesse and Camilla in KL for making this virtual telecast possible. Vice Chancellor Professor Williams, this award has given me a stronger conviction to visit Edinburgh and Scotland more often since I'm now part of the Heriot-Watt family. I have been to Scotland several times, especially to play and watch golf during the Open at St Andrews in 2010, Moorfield in 2013, and then again in St Andrews in 2015, spending a whole week each time I'm there. I mentioned just now what a feat Professor Lin Jack achieved by being the First Lady President of SIPSI. I recall visiting Moorfield in 2013. It is still possibly the only golf club that doesn't admit lady members. And this is in Scotland in the mid-20s. And recently in 2019, I decided to take my wife Cindy for a whiskey tour to Scotland in July. This time without the golf set, of course. And what a wonderful time we had there, not only enjoying the Scottish summer and the rugged scenery of the Isle of Skye, but learning and being enlightened by the art of science and science of whiskey making. Today, my wife, a total teetotaler, could be mistaken for a compulsive alcoholic if you see her personal display of whiskey collection. Perhaps she should enroll for a master's degree course in brewing and distilling at Heriot-Watt University, such a unique course by the university. One proviso though, Make sure it's not compulsory to drink while being in class. By a strange coincidence too, Professor Williams, on that summer day in 2019, when we were heading to Edinburgh Airport to return to London in our rental car with a whiskey-laden boot, I must confess, I could have sworn I made a wrong turn heading to Heriot-Watt's Riccarton campus. Had I crashed through the barriers or were still into your office, this event could never have happened, even if I plead that the car and not the driver was drunk with 21-year-old Glenlivet and Glenfiddich. By the way, in passing, I would like to brag that currently I must be one of the biggest Malaysian buyer and purveyor of Scottish whisky, importing close to 1 million bottles worth close to $50 million annually as the chairman of Malaysia's biggest airport duty-free shop. I'm also appointed as a chairman because I'm a teetotaler. That's risk management for a company. On a more serious note, Professor Lin Jack in her oration mentioned my family's encouragement for my siblings and I to seek education and knowledge. And time and again, this legacy is a well-proven formula for success, transforming families from relative poverty to middle-class stature, and some even to immeasurable wealth. This cuts across many nations and societies, and I thank my parents for this lasting legacy for me to pass on to the next generation. 20 years ago, as Professor Jacks mentioned, one of the highlights of my life was gaining entry in the boys' wing of the Royal Military College. Arguably the best boarding school then, and even now, only 100 students per annum were picked on full scholarship to the board in this premier school, founded by the British Field Marshal Sir Gerald Templar. I must say, I thrive in this institution where it taught young kids to be the best that we can be, not necessarily just academically or in sports and extracurricular activities, but primarily in leadership and discipline, as one would expect in a semi-military establishment. I found my strength as a people person, fond of coordinating and doing things with my hands and leading from the front, perhaps a DNA inherited from my father. Hence, that shaped my education journey, taking the path less traveled in my pursuit of an all-round education that combines academic and practical training hand in hand. I spent a good decade in the UK working on many construction sites, and at various times as a site engineer, a laborer, a hod carrier, forklift driver, site manager, and my final posting as a building officer with the Works Department of the National Health Service prior to my return to Malaysia in 1983, which happened to be the year I got my corporate membership of the Chartered Institute of Building. I must say, this experiential or most apprenticeship route is only possible in the UK, which has the ecosystem and framework to train real battle-hardened professionals. And thanks to professional institutions such as the Chartered Institute of Building, which provides a pathway to chartered membership. The exposure, understanding, and dealing with a whole range of people of various nationalities with varying levels of education is unique. Apart from the English, you have to work with the Irish, the Scottish, Welsh, Polish, Indians, and West Indians. Even amongst the English, you have to manage the Geordies, the Yorkshiremen, Mancunians, Midlanders, and the Cockneys, and it does take a while to understand the various accents spoken on site. I have to say that I've earned my stripes and endeared myself to those I work with. The Irish, generally known as the Paddies in England, would nickname me as Mick O'Reilly, Mick being the first name, while the Geordies would call me Black Pudding. Sometimes I am also known as Speedy Gonzalez, as I was quite adept at operating a forklift on site, unloading and moving palletized components around the project. I'm also at times formally employed and designated as a laborer. Since working part-time, I get double pay for overtime work. An engineer would not be entitled to overtime payment. And if the brick is made is off sick, I end up being the hod, or what we call a mortar carrier, the mixer of concrete carrying 100-weight cement bags on my shoulders and shoveling aggregates while at the same time operating the theodolite and the dumpy level in my hard hat, Doc Martens steel-toe cap shoes, and a robust donkey jacket. How romantic. Armed with the qualifications and, more importantly, ironclad practical experience, I returned to Malaysia in mid-1983 after an interview in London to join a British-managed project management consultancy, which led to my commendable ride to the top. The rest of my career, as they say, is history. I have not forsaken the values imbued in me from young, nor have I forgotten the serve to lead motto of the Royal Military College. To properly lead and to gain respect, humble servantship, and serving with a spirit of excellence and honesty are imperatives. I subscribe to the principle of sowing reaping. For it is said, whatever a man sows, he will also reap. He who sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and he who sows bountifully will also reap bountifully. Hence my desire to give back to society and the community, which motivated me to be involved in NGOs and advocacy work in the very industry that has served me well. It is also about gratitude. And this is where one needs to be grateful to all those people, especially the mentors and teachers who have been part of one's journey. There are just too many people and names to mention, both in the UK and locally in Malaysia, that I'm grateful to. Perhaps just a few. Jimmy Lawson Miller, the managing director of J. Lawson, who gave me my first job and continually employed me during vacation time and even when I was having a school break. Joe Bridle, the first agent, rough and tough brickie. Alan Tupper, Dennis Metcalf, the Geordie foreman. Jim O'Neill, the district works officer of Brand and Heriot Health Authority. Mr. Tony Livingston, Mr. Ron Whitehouse, Michael Godfrey, and nearer home, the foremen and supervisors who used to work for my dad, from whom I initially learned as a teenager the ropes and the tricks of the trade. Special mention too, as I climbed the corporate ladder, right to the very top of the heap, are such personalities as Tan Sri Razali Rahman, who is tuning in from Sydney, Dato Hassan Abbas, Tan Sri Lee Kim Yew, Dato Abu Bakar Matno, who is here with me, Dato Tong Kui Ong, and many other corporate captains. Others that have shaped my life and career would undoubtedly be the teachers and lecturers, too many to mention at the various schools and institutions of learning that I attended. But today, at this event, I just wanted to convey my special thanks to Heriot-Watt University, and in particular, you, sir, Professor Richard Williams, and the Senate, Professor Mushtaq Al-Artabi, Professor Lin Jack, and the selection panel for helping me realize possibly the greatest highlight of my life, this doctorate. My sincere appreciation to all those who are present here and watching this virtual conferment for being part of my life and spending your invaluable time with me. Many thanks also to both my 90-plus-year-old parents who are tuning in from Johor for the lifelong values embedded, in particular, the importance of education and underscoring the virtues of hard work, humbleness, honesty, and integrity. Most of all, thanks to my wife, Cindy, and my 4 children for the patience, tolerance, sacrifices, and unconditional love given while supporting me in my career and my standing today. In closing, I want to live life as what the famous American writer and poet Maya Angelou quoted. My mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style. Finally, I want to thank God for His enabling mercy and His grace to put the wind beneath my wings in my endeavors to fulfill my calling, a substantive part of which has been achieved with today's exceptional honor from Heriot-Watt University, as witnessed by all those very dear to me. Most humbly, I say once again thank you. Terima kasih dan salam sejahtera to Bonnie, Scotland, UK, Asia, Australia, and Kampung, Malaysia. Stay safe and healthy and have an awesome COVID-free weekend. Thank you, sir.
It's a great pleasure for us to be able to express our friendship and our appreciation of the honour you also give us by accepting this honorary degree, and we are very delighted you have done so. Well, as we draw to the end of this ceremony We look forward to that future occasion where we can continue to celebrate this award, and may I pass on the very best wishes of everyone at Heriot-Watt University to all of you who are present with us today. And now I will declare this congregation to be closed.